one piece of career advice you wish somebody had given you when you were starting out?
It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, the way that you become more senior is by making a lot of mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the faster that you're going to level up and become a senior engineer.
Can you share a pivotal moment in your career journey that's made a significant impact?
The thing that made the most significant impact on me is, this is the example that I use to illustrate the difference between sponsorship and mentorship, right? I had loads of mentors over the years, but one of the, at the time, directors, now a VP of SRE at Google, her name is Sabrina Farmer, and she was looking out for me and kind of trying to match me with interesting opportunities. Like, we didn't talk all that often, but she was the one who recommended me to be the program co-chair of SRECon, which is a conference dedicated to knowledge sharing among site reliability engineers. And that was kind of my foray into, not just being an individual contributor to a team or being a manager of a team, but kind of thinking about the broader ecosystem and kind of leveling everyone up across the entire ecosystem, like making every SRE better at their jobs by kind of sharing out that knowledge and making sure that there are kind of, vehicles for people to share information. So her active sponsorship of recommending me to take her place on the SRECon program committee, that was a really pivotal moment that kind of shifted me from being an IC or a manager to being a developer advocate, to being a field CTO, right? Like, to go down this customer facing, this kind of ecosystem facing role rather than just working on one specific service or team.
How do you approach challenges and setbacks in your professional life? And what's your go-to strategy for overcoming them?
I think the best way to think about setbacks is to focus on what can we learn from it, right? Like, we talk a lot about this idea of unscheduled learning opportunities, right? And that applies both to incidents, where your service goes down, as well as applying to your professional life. So as an example of this, a thing that happened, I was brought on to help the Google Flights team, the team that became Google Flights. They come from an acquisition at Google. Google, this was in Boston in the US. Our office of Googlers was 600, 700 people, and we acquired this company called ITA Software that was 1,000 people, 1,200 people, overnight the size of the office doubled or tripled. And they said, Liz, you know a lot about SRE, why don't you hop up this team? And the mistake that I made was I went in there, was you're doing this wrong and that wrong, and you should change X and Y and Z, right? And the people at IT Software are not dumb. They had reasons for doing those things, right? They've been doing it for, 20, 30 years, right? So, there was this immune tissue rejection that happened when I came in there, and was this is not the Google SRE way, right? Sure. My job was to teach them the Google SRE way, but I didn't have to, start off being so prescriptive or, to tell them things that they had already considered and decided not to do at the time, or right? I needed to build trust with that team first and work with them and alongside them before I could start kind of pushing them and nudging them. So that was an opportunity for me to reflect on what went wrong, right? What am I going to do the next time that I'm brought on to consult with a team, right? This was, oh goodness, this is probably, over 10 years ago, right? So, I've grown a lot as a engineering leader since then, but that was a very painful reminder from, walking into the post and being ow, that hurts, right? I was not able to save my relationship with that team. I had to start over and go to a different team. But I was a lot wiser about, how to slowly build up trust. So yeah, I think that kind of learning attitude and kind of that growth mindset is super, super crucial for making sure that you don't, you might have made a mistake, you've already incurred the cost, but what can we do to make sure that we don't have that happen again, right? What can we do to make sure that we are always finding new ways to fail rather than, trying to never fail or, always keep on tripping on the same thing over and over and over again. So that's what I would say about lessons about failure and learning.